is for All Sports Podcast.
Welcome to the All Sports Podcast with me, Matt, and today, Joel. Hey, Joel.
Hey, Matt.
And James. How are you, James?
I'm not bad, guys. How are you?
All good. All good here.
All good here. So, on today's episode, we are going to have a run through of the football fixtures from the weekend. Some big highlights specifically coming out of Sunday with the Man City-Arsenal clash. We will go into F1 at Singapore, the BMW PGA Championship at Wentworth for the golf, and we will finish off with boxing, one single boxing fixture. I feel like for the layman, we only really ever care about the heavyweight division. So we'll, of course, be talking about the AJ fight, although maybe going forward it's going to be the Dubois fight. Let's kick off with the football. Best place to start, Saturday afternoon, Villa Park. Was it even at Villa Park?
Is that where we're starting?
Yeah.
It was at Villa Park. Yes, it was.
You know, we start there because I think this epitomises football for every fan. Coming from behind, local derby, absolute thriller, end to end.
Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit like that. It was more, Wolves were very good in the first half. Villa were not very good. Their intensity was very low, leading to Unai Emery's outburst on Match of the Day that you might have seen them bleep out, which was really funny.
How did he start the press conference?
I don't know, actually.
Was it nice? Good evening.
Well, I imagine he'd say is good evening.
I think he'd have gone good afternoon, actually.
No, shame.
I don't know. Let's see. I could watch it back and see. But yeah, Wolves were pretty good first half, and Villa looked a bit leggy from all the chat around me. It was like Champions League weariness and whatever, and they definitely did look a bit short. He obviously got into them. Unai Emery obviously got into them at half time, and there was much more intensity in the second half. And I think the depth that Villa have at the moment makes a big difference as well. Wolves also kind of took their foot off the gas. They seem to be protecting the lead, protecting what they had rather than going and trying to add to it. But yeah, Villa were able to make some changes early in the second half. Ross Barkley had a real positive impact on the game, allowed them to kind of keep the ball better, but also move it a bit quicker. And they also brought Leon Bailey and Ian Maatson off the bench. So two really kind of dynamic players to bring on and get Villa further up the pitch, get them a little bit wider, create that space for Rodgers in the middle of the park to start influencing the game. And he came off with 2 assists in the end. So they did get there in the end. And to be honest, I think I might have said something similar about the Everton game, that it did feel like they just needed to get one and then they'd get another. So I think they're showing some good resilience at the moment, Villa.
Yeah, I agree with all that. I think the impressive thing about Villa is they've lost Douglas Luiz, who in my opinion was one of the best midfielders in the Premier League, and they don't seem to have skipped a beat. Like Tielemans has really picked it up, and he's showing why he was such a shrewd acquisition on a free transfer from Leicester. I don't think he paid a fee for him. And Morgan Rogers is obviously from like a big fantasy football player, like it makes stats wise before this weekend. Wasn't doing much, but like the eye test, he was always one of the most influential players on the pitch, and he just sort of got some of the numbers to back that up in this game. Really good start from Villa. 4 wins and a loss, and you lost to Arsenal at home, which is a difficult game. So yeah, just carrying on last season's form. Obviously, the great thing with Watkins scoring as well. Like first couple of games, he didn't look all that great, but yeah, to have Duran now and Watkins scoring goals, like it's a really, really good start for you.
Yeah, definitely feels like going forwards. Like I was a bit worried actually where the goals are going to come from if Watkins didn't have the kind of season that he had last season. But he's picked up pretty much where he left off. I think he's on 5 goal involvements in his past 4 games in all competitions. So he's pretty much rocking and rolling again. And yeah, just having Duran, who it seems to be that it's more of a mindset thing and he's more willing to play this supporting role. He is getting more minutes. He's getting around 30 minutes a game. So that's obviously having an influence on what he can do. But he looks so sharp and was a big part of the equaliser, and then obviously got his own goal for the third one as well. So he's a big factor at the moment.
They're not a 1-for-1 though, are they? It's not a Duran for Watkins, is it?
They're playing them together, yeah. A couple of times when chasing the game, they've played them together and gone to like a real old school 4-4-2, 4-2-4 type of thing with either Rodgers or Ramsey wide on the left and Bailey or McGinn kind of pushing high on the right.
Yeah, it's especially with, we say about clubs, as soon as they get into Europe, squad depth's not there and you tend to have a drop-off season. But, you've got 2 number 9s who are firing, which is a great place to start from. I do just want to say about Wolves, like they're bottom of the table, but if you look at their fixtures and then the way they play, it's so much better value than the bottom with 1 point.
Yeah, they've had Arsenal, Villa, Newcastle. They've scored in every game except the Arsenal game, so they can score goals. It doesn't feel like rock bottom of the table is a fair reflection on how they've actually been performing. I think you're right. I think it's just a reflection on the fixtures.
Like even the easiest game they've had has bin Forest away, and Forest have looked great.
They've been good, haven't they?
But there hasn't really been a run of games where they should go, they should win that game. I don't think that I would be panicking if I was a Wolves fan yet.
I think the concern is getting into that losing mentality, and they have lost 2 big players in Neto and Kilman, so they need some leadership on the pitch, I feel like. But I wouldn't be that surprised if they started picking up some points. Yeah,
I'm definitely on the Max Kilman was overrated hype. Like if you watch him play, like I just feel like they got £40 million for him, and I've got no idea how. I think Gary O'Neill's a great coach, and they do play some really attractive football. And they've got some talents that are probably slightly above their level in the Prem. So I don't know what their next sort of set of fixtures are. I think they've got maybe a couple more difficult weeks, and then it seems to open up a little bit for them. So I think
they've got Liverpool. They've got Liverpool this weekend, and then Man City in 2 weeks' time.
Yeah, and then I think they're just speaking from fantasy fixtures. I think a lot of them are green after that. They're in like a nice run of form.
Too studious, some fans say. I messed up. I went Onana rather than Rodgers.
You deserve everything you get for that.
I just backed Villa for the fixture.
Yeah, but you picked the attacking threat who's been outstanding rather than the holding midfielder who keeps scoring the odd header. Yeah, I fantasy for this year. I did another draft. Obviously, the guys that know what the draft are. And that's become like a bigger thing for me this season than my actual team.
Okay. Well, that feels like having named your league team champions again, Ole. I feel like you're now just building excuses into not being champion again, just in case.
My draft team.
Very early. It's very early.
My draft team is in a league with my younger brother and some of his mates, and I've actually called that one the Better Bray, which seems like quite a harsh name to come out with into that league. So I'm sitting top of that. That's all that matters to me. Right.
What other fixtures from the weekend then? Before we get into the big one of the weekend,
I'll just call out. I obviously did watch the Liverpool game. They are the Forest game. I feel like is going to be a bit of an anomaly. Like I just feel like watching Liverpool at home, they just seem to click into another gear. Diaz seems to have jumped like 3 or 4 levels since the whole Barcelona interest. He just seems to be elevated his returns. Like he used to be like do a lot of these things with no end product, whereas now he's adding goals, and it's just a bit of a dangerous asset to have.
The attacking options that they have. It feels like any combination of those is one of the best in the league, basically. So they've got Diaz, who's kind of delivering at the moment, and Salah, and it feels like one more of like Nunez. Obviously, did he get 1 goal at the weekend?
Yeah, he scored a really nice goal as well.
Wasn't it? Like curling left foot, yeah. And then obviously Jota. And I feel like as well as Chiesa as well. He got some minutes at the weekend, didn't he? So, it does feel like they have lots of options at the top end of the pitch. And when you've got people like Trent playing the way he is as well, I think, we'll come on to it. But obviously Arsenal and City have got their issues with injuries. So if I was a Liverpool fan, I'd be licking my lips at the prospect of them missing players.
Their fixtures haven't been a joke either. Winning away at AC Milan was a very solid result, and to show no effects of that, no legs of that at all. But it was against Bournemouth, but they've also, ignore the Forest fixture. Forest were amazing. The win against United, away at Man United as well, I think that was a big statement for early on in the season from Liverpool.
I think the big thing for Liverpool, and the only thing that will cause a distraction, it's already sort of creeping in, is a lot of this contract talk that's going on. Trent's made some questionable quotes in the media about his decisions going to centre around like success and trophies. And then he made another one about he's really happy that he's finally got a manager that was wanting to improve him, which seems like a bit of a weird jab at Klopp.
That is a weird jab, isn't it? Is that what he said?
There's a few things that he's saying, just like I don't know if he's lining himself up for an exit, like he's trying to become that less loved version of that he is, because he is an academy prospect that they're always going to like. So yeah, some weird comments going on. I think if they can sign Virgil and Allison and Trent to a new deal, they will seem like they are flying. Like everything's going well. Apart from that,
who's interested in Trent?
Real Madrid is the rumor that was floating around in the summer, because he's out of contract at the end of the summer. So they'll give him a ludicrously sized contract. He'll get to go and play with his friend Bellingham, and he's a bit of a ego-based player anyway. He goes to play for the biggest club in the world.
Feel like
Van Dijk's not getting more than a year though, right?
I think if they're going to do it, they'll break that 30-plus deal for both him and Salah. They'll give them both a couple of years, I would imagine.
Will he not go Saudi? Has he got any Saudi interest? He seems like a good Saudi acquisition at 33.
Too early for that.
Yeah, Van Dijk's still like at this peak of his powers this year and back end of last year. So I feel like going to Saudi for him, he is like such a competitor. He just wants to be in the best games. And there was a report that Salah had seen what happened to Mane, and he's like dropped off the face of the earth since going to Saudi, and he doesn't want that at all.
Yeah, Mane really has.
Yeah. So all looking good for Liverpool. Like mentioned, like some of the Prem games have been kind. It's not the hardest run of fixtures in the Prem. Like the United was quite difficult. So yeah, excited to see how they line up against your Cities and your Arsenals, and the Spurs games will be tough.
Go on then, City v Arsenal. Where do you start? Gosh, start with Haaland's goal was as you'd expect. He just did that beastly physical run and
really remarkably easy.
Amazing. Yeah, it was remarkably easy. But
I have a weird thought about, like, I think Arteta has sort of pepped himself in that back four. Like, he's changed it for the sake of changing it, and the back four was miles apart during that run of play. Like Saliba and Gabriel were nowhere near each other and just left this huge gap for Haaland to run through, which you cannot do.
Yeah, and his finishing and his confidence is just so high. He was never going to miss a one-on-one with the keeper.
Strange, like inside of the post. Yeah. It was weird, but it was great.
He basically toe punted it, didn't he?
Yeah, and he was like, I know where you're going, Ryan. I'll put it in that corner over there. But yeah, it's the goal you used to see him score countless times for like Dortmund, RB Leipzig. So yeah, it's just classic Haaland, that.
And then the Arsenal goal. So was it the first goal or the second goal? I don't know. It was the header, an Arsenal set piece that no one seems to be learning from.
The equaliser was from the free kick.
Yeah, the contentious.
Yeah, so talk about the contentious free kick. Was it contentious? He'd called both captains over, so he called Michael Oliver, wasn't it?
Yes.
So Michael Oliver calls over Bukayo Saka and Kyle Walker from separate sides of the pitch to tell them to calm the teams down, then sends them off and sends them back to start play again. Probably about 5 seconds later, I don't know if he blew his whistle or if he let play go on, but it felt like a fairly decent amount of time. If Kyle Walker had sprinted back, he would have been in the exact right back position, but he didn't. He ran back, spoke to some teammates, but he was backtracking. But then play went his way, and obviously they conceded the goal from that run of play, and he's complaining that he didn't have time to get back into position. He was told to talk to his team, but then wasn't allowed to because play had started already.
Yeah, well summarised. I think bringing Walker in for a chat in the middle of the pitch, he should really give him time to get back into shape, but he was in line with the back four. He just wasn't paying attention to the ball. The contentious part for me was the free kick was probably taken 10 yards too far forward from where it should have been taken. But that happens at every game. These things happen, and Kyle Walker is sort of looking for an excuse as to why he wasn't quite ready. But I mean, a lot has happened after the free kick. Like, he's still been held up. They've made a pass and a left back scored a 30-yarder. Like, I feel like that part of it is. It's not like
that finish.
You could have done that play 1,000 times, and it's probably only one goal.
It's quite a funny finish to look at. I thought it was just like the way that he finished it from that angle with his left foot.
Yeah,
for it to go in the far corner as well. It was like one of those ones. Yeah, exactly. Like, it was like one of those ones that you see, like, I don't know, freestylers on YouTube are trying to do a very specific thing. They do it, and it was really weird to watch it.
Yeah,
it kind of felt like the keeper should save it
in the slow mo. Though it's just consistently bending away from.
But it's impossible.
It was one of them. It's like, I don't think he would do that again. But
I think Henderson looked very good in the game. I mean, he didn't have a lot to do in the second half.
And I will stand up, maybe keep his union. I think something needs to be done about Arsenal's corner routine. I just don't think that's legal. Martinelli has no intent on the ball.
But he can stand. He can stand
block.
still.
Yeah, but you can't block. He's like backing in. If you see this still, he's backing into him with no intent to play the ball. I think that's a foul.
It's a contact sport.
I know it is, but you can't do that.
Why?
Because there's essentially a circle around the keeper, so he can't come out and get a ball. He's being blocked.
What's the problem?
It's a foul on the goalkeeper.
No one's fouled him. He's not able to get out because they're standing still.
Yeah, okay, right. If you do that, you just create a wall by the keeper and pin it in the 6-yard box every time, which is what they're doing. It's just not legal. It shouldn't be.
Well, it is legal. They've found a loophole in essence, haven't they? You just purchase these enormous players and block off the keeper, and then you leave two massive centre-backs to run in and attack the ball with a header against these smaller defenders. I mean, Doku and Kyle Walker should have done better against Gabriel, but Gabriel finishing around the 6-yard box with a header is very, very dominant.
I was going to say, you've just literally defined interference. Like, they're just standing there without letting him come and get for it. Go and get for it.
But where the ball is being played, it's within 5 yards of them.
I don't know that's the point with it.
I mean, they're in a position where the ball can come to them still. The ball's getting crossed into the box and they're stood in the box to receive the ball. I know they're not going for it, but...
It's a foul. It's 100% a foul.
Okay. Well, it's not because it wasn't given. So you have to go with what the refs said, and the refs said it's not a foul.
Okay. I'm telling you that should be a foul.
If
it was done against you...
I know you're too tired to continue this argument, so we'll leave it there.
If it was being done against you, you'd think the same thing.
I'm
being more physical. I'm being more physical than that. But that's why I play a different sport.
The thing is that exactly the same thing happened from the previous corner. So they're not calling it at the moment. There's no way that Mark Oliver's missed it twice. It must be, but I do think it's going to be something that won't be allowed to continue. I think both those things can be true, that at the moment it's probably fine, but later down the line they might start calling it.
They did it all last season.
Did they?
It feels more obvious now because it's got highlighted in the game.
They keep scoring
and it got highlighted against Tottenham. I mean, Tottenham's was a joke. I don't know what their defence was doing. Anyway, we've already covered the Arsenal-Tottenham game. However, they did it all last season.
Yeah.
And it gets praised as free kick prowess, set piece brilliance. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see.
It probably is exactly, you use the word loophole. It's a loophole that needs to be closed. For me, the keeper has to be able to at least come and challenge for it. If he can't get there, then that's a good corner and it's headed in. But he has to have the opportunity to come and catch it. Otherwise, what's the point of letting him leave the 6-yard box?
And where Saka's putting that ball right on the edge of the 6-yard box, you would expect the keeper to be coming out and claiming, like Raya did in the 96th minute.
Yeah, that ball floats into there. And
I know. But Arsenal's defenders are giving Raya the space. They are protecting Raya in the Arsenal box.
Yeah, I reckon we're going to get to a point where Haaland is just going to stand on the goalkeeper. The keeper's going to 6'5" Norwegian guy.
Too scared to move.
Why aren't they using him as well?
A foul against it. The only reason Arsenal get away with it because it's little Gabriel Martinelli who's about 5'9". He wouldn't be able to block him, but he is. Yeah, I reckon honestly, within 3 weeks, you'll be going, "This isn't fair. These shouldn't be fouls," and you won't score a corner for the rest of the season. Now it's been highlighted too much. Right?
Why are you saying you? You're getting personal about this. Let's move on. Let's move on to Trossard.
Yeah,
ludicrous. I just think after
both fouls yellows.
What both fouls yellow? Don't remember the first foul.
I don't remember the first yellow. I don't know what he got that for.
But the second one was probably a yellow in its own right, and then he kicked the ball away.
Such an obvious foul, and then kicking the ball away. I do think there's probably a compound issue there that the referee is probably a bit like, you can't commit that foul and kick the ball away.
But him kicking the ball away I didn't feel...
Literally, between the whistle going and him kicking the ball away, there is less than a second, isn't there?
Yeah, it didn't feel particularly dissent-y, like he was stopping play going ahead.
But, he knows a foul is going to be given.
Yeah,
he knows
that barge through the back. That barge through the back happens 30 times in a game and is rarely a yellow. I know it was an obvious foul.
I don't think if he'd stopped running and not kicked the ball away, he would have been booked there. I don't think he would have been.
The second yellow thing, we spoke about it. Did we speak about it last week or the week before? The thing, sometimes it feels quite harsh that someone gets sent off for what they get sent off for the second yellow. But
I heard some comms last week about they were suggesting that a second yellow should be a slightly higher criteria than the first, but it sort of
usually is.
Yeah,
it usually is, isn't it? And like
they get a bit more grace.
Yeah, there's this unwritten rule that you will get like a final warning basically before the second yellow comes out. I don't think Trossard had that, but like I say, I think it's probably as a result of that's quite an obvious foul, and you've absolutely clobbered the ball, well away from where you made that foul. So
it's also a little bit stupid, like the amount of talk there's been around Rice's yellows and kicking the ball away.
Well, there's been a couple of instances I've seen, like Martinez in the Everton game. I think it was 0-0. And the ball goes out for a throw-in, like in line with Villa's 6-yard line, goes out for an Everton throw-in there. Like I think Martinez has like tried to go out and stop it from going out or whatever, or maybe he's headed the ball out of play or something like that. Kind of follows the ball out, picks it up, kind of runs onto the pitch 10 yards, drops it, and goes back into his goal. And he was booked for that. I generally don't think that would usually happen. That would have happened in previous seasons. I mean, my issue with this is it's so clearly something that won't be enforced consistently throughout the season. No. It'll be the thing that everyone's talking about in January and February, where people are wasting time, kicking the ball away, picking up the ball and not being carded. And they'll be calling out these big decisions that have been made earlier in the season, because there's always something that they do that they kind of enforce diligently up until the second international break, and then they just stop doing it.
Yeah. Do you know, it's actually, I just draw a parallel with rugby, because the new rugby season just started this weekend and new laws have come into place, and they are being scrutinised to a much higher degree on that specific. So the specific one I'm thinking of is the DuPont law, where you clear the ball as a defender and then your players then have to retreat. So whoever takes the ball up, they have to retreat. You can't just stand in the middle of the park, like in an offside position, what would be, and just wait for someone to go and collect the ball. But they say after game 3 or 4, that's just gonna drop off. It's only in the first few games where it gets implemented that they hold it to a higher regard, and then they just drop it off. There's some more sensibility and logic that comes into it, rather than just being to the letter of the law. And that's what it feels like is happening here.
My issue with the yellow cards is how much time is kicking the ball away really wasting in the Premier League. Like there's ball boys, there's 15 different balls on the pitch, and yet Raya didn't get one single yellow card for time wasting when he wasted 9.5 minutes on goal kicks. Are they really comparable? Like if you're going to do time wasting, goalkeeper's going to get sent off every week.
Yeah, Villa are going to need some real squad depth.
Honestly, it's becoming an issue in, especially the level of football I watch. Like there used to be a rule where a goalkeeper could only hold on to the ball for 20 seconds, I think it was, like out of their hands.
Yeah.
Or it might have been 6 seconds at one point.
6 seconds, yeah, 6 seconds.
Seconds. Literally, I think it was like 20 seconds for a goal kick, whatever it was. And now I think Raya averaged 45 seconds per goal kick against Man City. Ball in his hands, like to kick it, was like 25, which is just making a mock. Like the ball's never in play. We're going to get to like NFL level of play being seen if it continues like that, which is just come back to your point. You were saying about enforcing a rule for a little bit. Remember, we were getting 15 minutes added on time at one point.
Well, that was it. Yeah, that was what it was last year, wasn't it? And then all of a sudden,
a few of the games have got up to 9 and 10 minutes of extra time so far. So we talk about Raya.
Yeah, he was amazing. I thought, like, I think he's having an amazing season. And yeah, like I watched him in the week in the Champions League as well. He obviously made that huge double save. Was it a penalty, and then
it was a penalty and
a header as well. And he did exactly that against Villa earlier in the season. The ball comes back off the bar, and Watkins kind of gets to it first, but he's up and ready to make the save straight away. Like his agility is amazing, and the way that he commands his box on balls coming into the box. Like that's the thing that Arteta called out about him, wasn't it, when they signed him? Like he wanted him because he's more willing to come and claim crosses. And I mean, it ended up not being a defining moment because, City equalised shortly afterwards. But there was a moment in stoppage time yesterday where he just came and claimed a ball at its highest point. The Arsenal fans celebrated it like it was a goal. It does feel like that when your keeper comes and does that when you're under pressure.
Well, they said it was just relieving the pressure. We spoke about it last week, Joel. you can bring a keeper in and they will earn you 12, 15 points in the season. And it looked like Raya was going to get Arsenal 3 of those points just in that game this weekend off the back of our conversation last week. But unfortunately, they just couldn't keep them out. It felt inevitable, but it felt inevitable for 50 minutes of football. And then for it to finally happen in the last minute was a bit
in the way that it did as well, with the ball kind of bouncing around the box.
Yeah. But I mean, that Arsenal line of the 5-4 formation that they were showing, they were so disciplined on the edge of their box. Like, I know there was a screenshot we looked at earlier. Like, they were never too far away from that box or too deep. More importantly, they weren't dropping onto Raya's toes. They had that space in between, and it was just forcing City space side to side. There was no Rodri to spread it, and Ruben Diaz must have had 15 shots from the edge of the box. Never really going to trouble him.
And Akanji as well. And you actually saw that Arsenal weren't pressing when those guys were picking the ball up on the edge of the box. They weren't pressing at all. They were giving them the space to have a shot.
The biggest change, like even Foden was on the pitch, he couldn't get on the ball. The biggest change for City was Grealish. Like, he was the only one that was willing to take the ball, try and take a few players on, get to the byline, which is obviously where the goal came from. But yeah, I mean, some of the saves that Raya was making were not just a claim, but there's probably 4 or 5 occasions where he dug out saves that he probably didn't have a right to keep out.
You mentioned Grealish there. I was kind of surprised that Guardiola didn't go to his bench a bit earlier, like with Foden and Grealish on there, and even Lewis, like just people who can take the ball in tight spaces and kind of make things happen. But I mean, I'm not going to sit here and question Pep Guardiola's logic, but I was break out, didn't they? It was like they just had this discussion of, right, we're going to keep them out. That's what we're going to do. That's what we're going to fully commit ourselves to doing. And they almost did it.
Yeah, you know what? Good point in the end for them. Point with 10 men in the Etihad. Can't say further than that.
I think if you'd have offered them 7 points from Villa, Spurs, and City away, they definitely would have taken that. So I think it puts them in a good position for the rest of the season, not having to go to any of those places again. So yeah, I think we should mention that Chelsea look pretty good.
They do look good. I think
Similarly to Liverpool, I think their threat up front is really good, but they're also starting to accumulate the clean sheets as well now.
I wonder if they'll be a bit inconsistent, but
you get that with youth, don't they? Like Jackson's just turned into, he looks like a fully confident version of himself. Like, he's not just roaring anymore, he's putting the chances away. And then Cole Palmer's just doing Cole Palmer things. So yeah, I'd like to see Chelsea face a big team in this sort of form and see what happens. But yeah, I do feel like that top 3 teams looks quite secure with City, Arsenal, and Liverpool. And then you'll have, I look that great, but like Chelsea, Spurs, Newcastle, really poor on Saturday, but generally looks okay. Aston Villa as well.
Into another 3-horse race, Formula One time. So McLaren, fastest car on the grid. Lando Norris finally puts it on pole and wins the race.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one. Like, I think Lando Norris set himself up to fail so early when he was complaining about like Hamilton having the most dominant car and it being that easy. He's had the best car for 8 races now, and he's not even been the fastest McLaren driver most of the time. So yeah, he really did drive well in Singapore though. I think he finished 40.
Well, you shared that points delta from 8 races ago when he had the most dominant car. What was it, 50 something?
Yeah, so after Miami, I think it was a 52-point gap, and it was sort of understood.
Verstappen, who was
McLaren had the fastest car then, and we're 8 races later, a summer break, and McLaren have won a few races, and it's still 52 points between them. So, Red Bull may not win the constructors, but I think that Max might have enough to sneak the world title.
Yeah, we called it a few weeks ago where it looked like it was going the other way, but Max finishing second in the race.
It feels like that was an important second for him to get.
Huge.
Really important, because all weekend in practice, the Red Bull looked nowhere. And Perez is always a good benchmark for how well the Red Bull should probably be doing. And he finished in 10th, mopped up that one single point at the back of the top 10 again.
Verstappen has this uncanny ability to maximise a weekend points. Like, even if he hasn't got the fastest car, he'll be 4th, 3rd, 2nd, fastest lap, and he'll always keep.
It's always in the points, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. So if it's 52 points, he needs a weekend where Max scores nothing and Norris wins to really make it, swing back his way after the last few weeks.
Well, look, the fastest lap of the race was Danny Ricciardo in possibly his last F1 race. He pitted with 2 laps to go to put on a fresh set of tyres just to show what he could do. And he actually took the fastest lap away from Lando. But his lap time was a 1:34.4 or a 1:34.8. So 1:34.4. And then Lando's was a 1:34.9. Max Verstappen's fastest lap was a whole second slower than that at 1:35.9. So that's the difference between them.
I've got a few thoughts on the Ricciardo fastest lap. I think it raises a bit of an issue that's been around Formula One for a while, that Red Bull essentially have 4 drivers, which they can do what they want with. And everyone's going, oh, yeah, it's Ricciardo's last race. We wanted to give it him. There's not a doubt in my mind that says Red Bull wanted to take that point off Lando Norris. Let's go send out Ricciardo in a soft tyre last lap. Every point means everything to that team.
Well, this is how much it means. For the remaining races, if Lando wins every race and gets fastest lap at every race, and Max Verstappen finishes second, they finish equal on points.
Hang on, so layman's terms for me, do you get like an extra point?
You get 1 extra point for fastest lap
extra point
in the race.
Going into the last 2 laps, Lando Norris was going to win because he's 20 seconds ahead.
And with the bonus point,
of the fastest lap. So they pitted Ricciardo, who was last anyway, put some fresh tyres on him and told him go and take that extra points off Lando Norris.
Which they can do because they own both teams. So there's a bit of a... Historically, though, the Formula One asked Red Bull to buy the second team because they needed someone. But now it feels like Andretti are wanting to buy a team and they won't expand to include them. They should be selling that team spot now. For the credibility of the sport, there shouldn't be someone that has this leverage.
Although there is also engine provision from some of the works teams. So Williams have got a Mercedes engine. So there's relationships that are there for other teams too.
There's relationships, but they're not owned by the same people. Like Mercedes and McLaren has a Mercedes unit in the back of it. They beat them every week. Like it doesn't make it. That's not really. I feel like if you're owned by the same people, you have interest. That's just where the line should come. And it was
actually other than the fastest lap drama, it was actually a pretty boring Singapore race. For the first time ever in history, there wasn't a safety car, and for the last 6 races, I think there's been 15 or something wild like that.
Yeah, I feel the only other thing to mention was Mercedes were really shafting Hamilton with strategy.
Yeah, you were quite upset with that mid-race.
They started him on a set of used soft tyres and essentially just dropped him into a midfield pack with 10 lap delta to everybody else. Like his tyres were knackered by the end of it, and gave George Russell a free position over him. So he wasn't very happy, and it feels like Hamilton's definitely being phased out.
I mean, they're definitely squeezing the points in George's favour. He's now only 19 points behind Lewis in the Drivers' Championship. So it's 174 to 155 for Lewis over George.
Big period coming up, though. So it's a 4-week break now. So if you're going to see, and it's not like an official break where they can't work on the car. So summer break, you can't do any work, can't do any engineering, researching. But this break, teams can go away, test, and bring some upgrades. So I would expect Red Bull to bounce back pretty aggressively.
Yeah, they've probably realised that they can't just leave the car now for the rest of the season. We spoke about it a couple of weeks ago, didn't we, Joe, about Adrian Newey leaving and that design gap that was there. James, do you know if anyone's mopped up that design gap that Newey's left at Red Bull? Have they brought anyone in?
They haven't brought anyone in, but the chat is that there was already people doing it. Like he wasn't super involved in
That's what we thought
of it. The big thing that I think is the gap at Red Bull is Jonathan Wheatley was like the head of sporting direction or whatever it was. Like he went as well, and now they've got 3 people job sharing his responsibility. So I feel like they're not backfilling. But Red Bull does feel like it's a little bit of a chaotic place to work at the moment. I mean, from a personal standpoint, I'd love for it to be a sinking ship, but I just feel like they'll have a rocket ship to come next year.
Well, Verstappen's kind of been feeding into that again this weekend, hasn't he, with his comments?
There are so many battles going on. Like Jos Verstappen hates Horner, Helmut Marko wanting to get rid of Ricciardo, but Christian Horner doesn't. There's a lot going on that they're not agreeing on things.
Liam Lawson's got a pre-signed contract that means that he needs so many races this year, right? And that's why Ricciardo's going, so that Lawson can race the rest of the season in the RB.
If he doesn't sign for someone, he can walk next year and he is meant to be up there of like the next best thing to come through. So they really don't want to lose him. I just feel like quick on the Ricciardo thing, like he's been absolutely shafted though. So he was supposed to take Perez's seat mid-season, and the deal was apparently all ready to be announced. And Liberty Media, who own the majority stake in Formula One, said, "We want you to keep Perez. He's got this South American appeal. Like the Mexico Grand Prix is really big because of him." And Red Bull kept Perez for that reason, and now Ricciardo won't have a seat, full stop. So yeah, they're pulling strings they shouldn't really be getting involved with. Unfortunately,
it's crazy that Liberty Media are involved.
Formula One is just it always comes down to money. Yeah, the only other thing is your best pal George Russell might end up in a Red Bull seat.
Yeah, riddle me that.
Yeah, Horner giving it, he's out of contract next season. It'd be stupid for us not to consider it. That'd be great.
Horner said that.
Yeah, because he's out of contract. He might just be trying to annoy Toto, but I
reckon it might be.
I think it's probably more that. Yeah, I don't think it's that viable. We see how George Russell does against Kimi Antonelli. Kimi Antonelli is going to definitely be giving George a run for his money. A very similar situation to Piastri and Norris will have at Mercedes. So that's going to make it very exciting. I was concerned that there wouldn't be much development on the cars next year and we'd kind of limp through to the regulation changes in 2026. But with the driver changes that are coming next year, how open the field has been for the second half of this year's season, it feels like it can be anyone's to win next year between Ferrari, McLaren, Red Bull, and maybe Mercedes.
Yeah.
Maybe even Aston Martin. Say it quietly.
Yeah, you wouldn't be surprised.
They'll need to get rid of Lance Stroll first.
Yeah, but there's a sort of rumour that Aston Martin are looking at some sort of hypercar entry, and there's a world champion in that. The big thing that Lawrence Stroll wants is for Lance to be a world champion or something. So maybe they'll
He just needs to create a new sport for him. That's literally what's happening, isn't it? There's a new motorsport that's being created so that his son can be a world champion.
That's the one.
What a world!
Yeah, but a bit of a break now, 4 weeks, and then get stuck into the. I think it's Austin next, isn't it? North America next. Yeah.
Speaking of yeehaw, Billy Horschel.
Nice.
I was wondering where that was going.
Yeah, don't worry. Don't miss a beat with the segues. Billy Horschel comes over to Europe just for 3 competitions in the year. Genesis Scottish Open, Wentworth, and the Open. Gets tied second at the Open, wins Wentworth, gets lost back to America again for the rest of the season. I don't like that.
No, I think you've got the wrong end of the stick there. I think Billy Horschel is probably the American golfer that supports the DP World Tour the most. He comes across quite a lot. He's got like status on the tour, like he plays enough to get that level. And I have no problem with that. He made 7 birdies in a row on Friday, I think it was.
He's got history at Wentworth as well, right?
Yeah, he won it 2-3 years ago, 2021.
Yeah, 2021. I think a COVID year where they had no fans at Wentworth, as Joel termed it this weekend.
Very smart.
Yep, thanks.
Yeah,
that might make it into the pod title.
Really?
That sort of wordplay. But yeah, McIlroy, the nearly man again.
Yeah, I would. This one though, he hasn't thrown away.
No, I think it's more like an inspired performance from Horschel, isn't it? Than McIlroy missing an opportunity or throwing it away or whatever.
There's 2 sides to it. So Horschel finished birdie eagle in regular time and then finished birdie eagle again in playoff. He made an eagle in the second playoff hole. Yeah, so he could have finished birdie eagle. But McIlroy sort of highlighted his need for a proper caddy once again. I don't know if you saw the actual last hole, the 18th hole. He hit a drive which left him like a terrible number for him. So he doesn't carry a driving iron or a 3-iron. I think is what he needed. He had like 250 yards in, and he tried to like hook a 4-iron. Like this shot is like not the percentage play. He tried to hit this big high hook of a 4-iron and nearly put it in the water. And he failed to get up and down, which is what caused the playoff. But I think if anyone was a decent caddy, they would have either not had him hit driver off the tee and left a good number in, or had him hit a soft 2-iron. So yeah, I think that's been highlighted a few times with Rory about not having a proper caddy, and people always say about, this is his friend, like he keeps him calm, but there's times where an elite caddy would make the difference for McIlroy, and I think that 18th hole was probably the occasion for him. After
15 years on the tour, like how calm does he need to be kept? Like, how out of control is he with his game that he needs his best friend holding his hand round the...
I mean,
I think you could ask the question in the opposite way as well, though. Like, he knows his game. He should know what's best for himself from a golf point of view. And if he thinks he needs someone, I don't know about keeping him calm, but keeping him level, then having a friend there. But it hasn't really worked, I don't think. And like James, you've pointed out there that he doesn't always make the best decision for himself. No. And he does need somebody who's coming in with a more objective point of view, probably.
It's a non-emotional point of view as well. Like, if he's gone 10 years without a major, his best friend's going to want him to win more than anything. Yeah. You know best. But sometimes you need someone to say, no, you're doing the wrong thing. Like, you'll know the big caddy player relationships over the years. Like the Williams-Woods one is the always one I think about. Like, Williams was strong enough to say, you should be doing this. Like, even Tiger Woods, who would just go like, no, I'm going to do what I want. It's like, no, I think you should do this instead.
I think we spoke about it earlier in the year, didn't we? That your best friend is less likely to challenge you than someone that is a professional caddy. Yeah. But not just a professional caddy, but a world top caddy.
Yeah, there's definitely options out there if he wants to try. Like, a lot of caddies would go and make money with Rory McIlroy. Like, I feel like it's a very lucrative position as it is. But yeah, I would say he didn't throw this one away. Like, he played really well. He is in a really good run of form as well. Like,
we're talking about it because he's getting himself into each way positions.
He could be playing average golf, finishing top 20 every week, and no one will be talking about him. But because he's in this really great, rich vein of form. Vein of form, that's the one. It's being discussed more and it's highlighted more. But I think, it's game's in a really good place. It's just got to get over the line.
Boxing?
Question mark?
We had 11 of the top 12 at Wentworth were from Great Britain and Ireland, which was pretty cool for the home nations.
I would say that it's a really good season ender for me. I really like the Wentworth competition, especially when you get some of the Americans coming across. Yeah, the golf in itself, like the DP World Tour, needs to get itself sorted with LIV. And they're still banning the selection of LIV players until they pay their fines, which there needs to be some sort of agreement. I see both sides of it. Like, these guys have taken the deal, they've taken the risk, they should get to keep a lot of their money. But they also need to have some sort of restitution for the players that have stayed behind. Like, it's a really tricky case, but I don't want to see Europeans play without Hatton and Rahm because we'll just get absolutely cooked.
Is that pretty much it now for golf for the rest of the year?
Yeah, there's a few Spanish events that I think Rahm was hoping to play in, but yeah, it's just basically the Dubai Race to Dubai Cup, whatever it is. This the European version of the FedEx Cup that they've got to play, and then that's it. Yeah.
Well, yeah, the Race to Dubai for the European Tour. I'm gonna segue this incredibly as well.
If you do say so yourself.
Well, like the Middle Eastern, Saudi Arabian boxing dominance continued. I was so surprised, and I thought maybe I was watching the wrong feed. I was watching an illegal feed anyway. But to hear they announced that now the national anthem of Saudi Arabia for two British boxers boxing at Wembley. I was like, am I watching the wrong feed? What's going on? And thanks to the government of Saudi Arabia and representing Riyadh Sports, I was like, I'm watching the wrong feed, certainly. And then it was National Anthem of Great Britain, and then it was the Dubois AJ fight.
Yeah, did the National Anthem of Saudi Arabia get booed?
I didn't pick up on that. Did it?
I don't know. I just saw the clip. I saw like the feed sound come down. So I don't know if they've muted the crowd for whatever reason. I didn't.
I would imagine that would have probably happened if people were booing.
It's essentially state-sponsored sport. Like, I don't know what people are hiding away from. This is exactly what it is. It's just happening in Wembley this time instead of Riyadh. But yeah, the only thing that I found very strange about this fight, and a lot of it was like leading up to the fight, was how like Dubois wasn't even really considered. It was all about AJ. Like, this was.
I think it was an 83% fan vote for Joshua over Dubois, and I think a lot of that is on popularity.
Yeah, that sounds.
He's the media man as well. He's been the main man in British heavyweight boxing as like the most. Yeah, and one even more like he's even more from London than AJ from Watford. So
who got booed? Dubois.
Dubois did, yeah. As the champion coming out first. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm kind of like because Joshua's not like universally popular, is he?
No, I wouldn't think so.
Like I've watched he did a documentary on the BBC, or was it a Louis Theroux interview on the BBC? Maybe last year he did that. He just comes across terribly.
He comes across like a man with CTE now.
CTE?
Yeah, that's where you get punched in the head too many times.
Oh, right.
It's like is it a concussion illness? Loads of football. Yeah, the whole press thing was confusing, and it was almost like it was slightly funny to watch him get knocked out in the 5th round, like just all the hype that was around him.
I mean, just after sticking his tongue out to the camera as well. Like, how many times had he been down by that point? Was it 4?
He's already been absolutely battered for 4 rounds.
But he went 5 times. 2 were slips, but one of the slips was he'd got encouraged with a fist on the way down.
Yeah, there were 3 official knockdowns, and even in the corner, like if you saw the commentary, like he was talking about just before he got knocked out. It was like, oh, this is all he's got. This is his best. You're fine. Walks out and gets put on the floor.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think he recovered from that from the first round.
The first round, it just caught. It seemed to catch him by surprise.
Yeah,
but it shouldn't have, because he keeps getting caught by surprise with his poor defense. He's always got his fist low and he's getting caught.
Which isn't good when you've got no chin.
No.
And he doesn't. That's his. Yeah, he's been found out for that, and all of his losses. Now he obviously got outboxed by Usyk, but yeah, he's been found out for that. But
I mean,
it sounds like he's going to exercise his rematch clause, doesn't it?
Really,
which is dangerous.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's got to do something, hasn't it? And that the Fury fight probably isn't going to happen now, or if it does, there might not be a lot riding on it.
I was going to say it's an end of the line fight for both of them now, which they're both most like it could still make 10-20 million each from this. It doesn't feel like it's going to be worth anything now.
Yeah, I mean, if Mike Tyson can still come out and make 20-50 million fighting a YouTuber, and I think there's still some legs left in Fury and Joshua who are in their 30s.
I mean, it'll sell, but it won't be a good fight.
Yeah, that's what it is, the show. Yeah, I was looking at Joshua's record, and the first fight of real prominence that he won was against Vladimir Klitschko, but this was 10 years after Vladimir Klitschko was in his heyday, so he was in his 40s when Joshua beat him. And then Povetkin was probably the next big fighter that he won against. But that was in 2018. Since then, he fought Ruiz twice, lost to Ruiz the first time, and shouldn't have done. It was crazy that he lost to Ruiz. It was such a surprise.
Who was he supposed to be fighting then? Because Ruiz was like a late replacement, wasn't he? And he was not fit at all.
He wasn't. Yeah.
Or am I thinking of the second time?
No, you were right. No, you're right. That is correct. It was Ruiz. It was someone like Parker. Was it a rematch against Parker, or I can't remember off the top of my head?
He embarrassed him basically, didn't he?
Oh no, it was Dylan White. He was supposed to, and just managed to generate a lot of press, and is a fairly decent boxer, but isn't on the world standing. But yeah, Daniel Dubois now looks like the next big thing in British boxing in the heavyweight division, which is good, because the Fury and Joshua stuff is kind of limping to a finish, it feels like.
Feels like we'll get another Dubois versus Usyk fight at some point, which will be good. I think that's, for me, that's like crowning because they'd be a unified as well world title, wouldn't it? But yeah, I mean, Usyk's probably the best fighter I've ever seen, like in my age. But it'd be great to see a British fighter in that conversation again.
Yeah, he's late 30s now. I say late 30s. Gosh, he's same age as me. He's late 30s as well. Yeah, he's probably only got a couple of years left of taking these big fights and dominating the division. He's not going to want to go out. He's not going to want to go out the way that these other ones have. Certainly in the way that the Klitschko's did when they lost their last 3-4 fights. So he's 22. He's 22-0 at the minute, Usyk, and he's got some big names on there. So
yeah, and Dubois is still quite young, isn't he? In mid-20s.
27.
I think 20. Yeah, 26, 27. Yeah.
So it's time for him to get on and win it all.
Right. That will wrap us for today. If you have enjoyed listening along, you can like, subscribe, and rate us 5-star on Spotify. And if you want to get in touch, it is allsportspods@gmail.com. And we will catch you on the next one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Matt.
Cheers, guys.